you're supposed to forget time completely, and it let that like experience like immerse you and take over you, and all of a sudden you're in this time warp where you go into the sauna and then you come out of the sauna and you think that what the hell, 4 hours. If you think of the traditional really old style Finnish saunas, they used to be like these built of logs, like timber saunas with and often you would have gaps between the timber, and the floor would have gaps, and you would have tons of air coming in, and those are some of the best saunas I've ever been in. The next step in evolution of sauna, when they when they use the same principle of the fire under the rocks, and the fire goes through the rocks.
Guess who's coming to sauna? Hekilunta. Guess who's coming to sauna? Hekilunta.
Hello. My name is Juha Ruokangas. Welcome, and thank you for the invitation to the Upper Bench podcast. It's an honor. Happy to be with you today. I've just started to warm up the sauna, so let's go have a look inside. A little dressing room, bench, firewood there, birch this time appears. Then we go to the washing room, oil lamp on the wall, as we like to be, benches for washing, buckets for mixing hot and cold water. We don't have shower here, so doing the old-fashioned way. Hot room, I would say comfortable space for 3 to 4 people. Sometimes we've been 5, it's been good, but I'd say 3, 4 better. There's the kiuas, the stove, as you guys call it, hot water container over the kiuas. A little view to our garden. You can see the background, our guitar workshop building in which we also live, so it's all nice and compact. That's our lives, more or less. Yeah, that's about it. That's the sauna we currently have. So you can see from the shape of the sauna, it's kind of reminds the barrel saunas, but this one is quite a bit bigger, and I would say doesn't have a lot of the kind of negative sides that you would connect to a barrel sauna typically. So this one, it's more comfortable to sit in. It's higher, there's more room, there's a proper washing space, and so on and so on. So we've been quite happy with this. But it's still a work in progress. Proper terrace missing, a cold splash possibility missing, and so on. But we just got it a couple of years ago. But yeah, working on it.
Awesome. That was a great video. Thank you so much, Juha.
Hey guys. Thank you for sharing. That was a great way for us and our viewers to kind of get a step foot in your sauna. So that's great. Risto, what'd you think?
I liked it. It was we don't see that type of sauna very often here in North America, and I especially like the old-fashioned washing room. Right. Our viewers or listeners from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, they'll appreciate that because it's very traditional.
I can tell you a little bit more about the sauna, this particular sauna, later. But I mean, yeah. So that's what we currently have, and yeah, I've lived my whole life here, and my family is from up north, and it's kind of when you're born. My mother and my father, they are from the countryside up north, and they were literally born in sauna. The actual birth happened there because that was often on the countryside considered as the most hygienic place, and you had warm water, hot water, easily available, and so on. So
it
that
doesn't
would
get
have
any
been
more authentic than that.
yeah. So I mean, and I've all my life, sauna has been part of my life, as it is for most Finnish people, which is kind of an interesting thing, also in the way that you know, when it's part of your life always, you can also take it for granted. And I would say that if you think of the, you know, the whole spectrum of you know, Finnish people, how they perceive sauna in the modern society, I mean, there's a lot of people who don't think much of it. I mean, they might have gone to sauna all their lives, but they've never given it like much of a thought. It's kind of like taking a shower, or, you know, washing your hands, or any other kind of just those things that you do. And you don't necessarily maybe appreciate it until you don't have it, you know. So
that is so. I know what you're talking about. I've been living in the US for 25 years, so I know something about not having it. But there are different levels, different flavors to sauna, and I'm sure that we often talk about that what is actually there's a lot of discussion in the US, particularly in the US right now, what is actually a sauna. And there are a lot of hardcore people who just won't take anything else than a traditional kind of a sauna.
But guys, before we go further than that anywhere, I just want to say a few things, because you guys are meeting me now for the first time. Well, Eero and I go way back, with Eero being our secret agent in the United States, selling our guitars there like 20 years ago, and so on. But not only that, Eero told me about your podcast a couple of weeks ago, and since then, believe it or not, I've listened to a lot of the episodes. So you have a fan. I'm really following your podcast, and you're doing a great job. And it's super interesting. And the theme that, I mean, you know, you guys know this, but I'm going to say it anyways. The theme that you, Eero, just kind of touched upon already, that repeats over and over, is the question of what is sauna essentially. You know, why is it even interesting? Why should you guys do a podcast about it or whatever? And why does it feel important? And then there's this sometimes polarized debate between those who are, or I would say that I can sense it in your podcast, and the, you know, the guests that you've had, and all the talks, and you talk about the forums where people are kind of debating, and sometimes maybe very polarized debate, and you know, and you guys are educating people who are somewhat new to sauna, or maybe kind of don't get the essence of what it is, or what you guys think it is or should be, or whatever. And then the difficulty of explaining it and communicating it for those of us for whom sauna is an elemental part of their lives, as really like a natural thing, and it feels like something that you really don't want to be without it, because you know, it's as important as sleeping, as eating, as part of a healthy way of life. So it's really interesting, and I appreciate that you do what you do. Yeah.
Thank you. So
thank you so much for being here. Yeah.
So we have one fan now. Like...
You have more fans, but you have one more fan. Yeah. So
I have to tell you that this is a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun doing these podcasts, and you know, I'm not smart enough, but I think it was Risto first who started talking about this podcast, or Sam, I can't remember. But anyway, so we've been doing this since last November, so we are not even a year old. But we try to, like, we are recording today, we are recording next Sunday, and obviously try to be as coming from different angles to the same issue. And obviously the issue, or the thing is here, talking about sauna. Let me just tell you, let's on my part, let me start with a story. So Juha is in the realm of boutique guitars. He is very well known, but you have to belong to that realm. You have to be inside that, I wouldn't say bubble, but so if you are into, and Juha might have a different view on this, but if you are into like quite fantastic, or naturally fantastic, but also expensive instruments, then Juha from Finland comes along, and there's actually a luthier school or music. What's the actual translation of the?
Well, guitar making school. You could just call it guitar making school. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's Juha is one of the most well known, but there are also others that come from and from that.
I mean, we don't need to delve very deep into the guitar stuff, but I would just like sum it up in the way that we or my company, we've been around for about 30 years, soon 30 years, and like Eero kind of mentioned, that it's like the world of guitar or guitar playing. I mean, it's like the popular culture and the whole thing. I mean, it's like something that just exploded in the 50s and 60s, and we have the American icons, the archetypes of guitars like Fender, Stratocaster, Gibson Les Paul, and whatnot, and in the kind of aftermath of the industrial revolution of what electric guitar kind of was driven by the industrial revolution as well. Then came the kind of the second wave, you could say, of handmade electric guitar, and it's been kind of bubbling under since, I would say, 70s, 80s, and now we come to the 90s, 2000s, with the rise of internet. Then we're kind of living this. If you're into electric guitars, if you're into high end, if you're into kind of like really into that niche of you just don't want the bulk what everybody else has, then now we're living this era of, you could say, like a renaissance of handmade guitar, more or less. I mean, there are thousands of luthiers or guitar makers around the world, and we were one of the you could say pioneers on the European front, and kind of have made our mark there. But I mean, that's a side path. But it's I will draw the talk back into the topic for the day, for the sauna, because it's kind of if you think of, I just mentioned about the kind of the use the term spectrum of different kinds of people in Finland who perceive sauna in different kinds of ways, and for me, having the personality of I guess there would be a diagnosis for this that I have. Whatever. I mean, I've been obsessed with guitars since young, and whatever I become interested in, I really dive deep into that, and so it's been, for me, sauna is kind of the same, and I've since the first apartment we ever had, first house we ever had with my family, I've been kind of delving into that. What is sauna for me? What kind of sauna do I like, and what kind of sauna do I want? So it's been really important, and I've experienced a lot of different kinds. Needless to say, I mean, if you're into that stuff, and if you live in Finland, you have a possibility to experiment a lot. Not always great, but obviously, like the I know you've kind of talked a little bit about the basics of what is the old smoke sauna about, and then the kind of the evolution of different, to the modern interpretations of what sauna can be. But so yeah, so I'm very interested in it, and so it's I would say that it's the reason why I'm interested in it and why I've kind of become quite experienced with, and I wouldn't say expert, I wouldn't even say super knowledgeable, but I know a thing or two, and I've built a few different kinds as well, sauna. So I mean, it's because of that same diagnosis that made me a guitar maker, that also make me interested in sauna. Yeah.
So I was just curious. So you said, and I was going to ask about that, if maybe your approach to guitar was similar for what got you into sauna. What are some of the more interesting or some of your favorite saunas that you've used in Finland? What have they been like? Are there any that you remember that were special?
Well, well, one thing that whenever there is a possibility to, I mean, going to the very roots of sauna, and when there is a possibility to go to an old-fashioned smoke sauna by a lake, and that can be, I mean, if not well prepared, it's not necessarily a great experience, but when well prepared, it can be just mind-blowingly wonderful. So I think that's the smoke sauna. It's because it's like a sauna is always a whole body experience, but I mean the smoke sauna is kind of so special with the odor, with the atmosphere, with everything. You can get that kind of similar, I would say, similar vibe and similar kind of a the encapsulating feel of the steam and the warmth surrounding you. You can get it in many kinds of saunas, but there is something special about smoke sauna, and I think it is partly because there is I mean, you preheat it before you go to sauna. So you don't. Our sauna has the kind of a modern wood heated stove in it, but when you preheat the sauna, you don't need to be mindful about the fire, that is there good amount of wood or not, or what. I mean, you do all the preparations, and then you can just use the sauna. You can be in the sauna for 5 hours, 6 hours if you want, and it's still going, because there is so much rocks in it. I don't know how much is it, like 1,000 kilograms or even, I mean, it's huge amount. So the heat it can hold, and the type of, when you throw water on the stones, on the rocks, it's this like almost like a otherworldly experience when you kind of throw the water on the stones, and first there's like nothing, and then slowly starts coming this like really low rumble from, and then the steam and the heat wave, when it comes, it lasts such a very long time, and it's like so soft that it's like velvety soft, and it's just wonderful. And you can do that. I mean, the same thing can be achieved by, is there, Eero, available in the United States? What is the kind of Aitokiuas?
Yeah, they are. Well, we do have some, but not many. Not many.
So it's like the next step in evolution of sauna, when they kind of, when they use the same principle of, the fire under the rocks, and the fire goes through the rocks, but it goes to chimney through the rocks. You would have a lid over the kind of like a closed stove, and when you start sauna, then you kind of take the lid off, and you have the rocks exposed. And this type of stove would have that benefit, that you don't need to keep the fire going while you're bathing. And you would have like tons of rocks in it, and you would get the good sides of smoke sauna and avoid, I would say, some of the bad sides. If you like to think that, you know, the smoke is not in the walls and it's not going to smudge your skin, or so it's so. And in the previous house where we lived, we had this type of stove and in the sauna that we had. I think, Eero, have you been in that?
Yeah, I think
In Hyvinkää, in
like,
the red old house that I had, and we had a building on the yard, in the garden, that had
I
this
was there.
stove. Yeah, and so this is pretty close to that kind of steam, encapsulating steam experience that is different. It always gets kind of the more you have rocks, I would say that the more you have rocks, the kind of the mass of the rocks, the easier it is to kind of control the softness, and it's kind of like when you throw a little bit of water on the stones, the room doesn't get even very hot at all, but you can just, if you want a lot of steam and a lot of heat, you just keep on throwing it, and you can really control it, like fine tune it while you're in sauna. And if one person likes one way and another person likes another way, you can control it when the room is big enough and the amount of rocks is enough, and so on. So that's quite special. I've always liked those, and we can actually, I can talk a little bit about the sauna that we have now, or the kind of the why we have this kind of sauna, because it's I've had many types of saunas, and this is not the type of the sauna that you saw the little video about. This is not the sauna I ever would have dreamt about. It's nothing that I would consider in a traditional sense as something that I see as a great sauna. But well, we live in the guitar workshop building that we have. It's a building. It's an old garage building belonging to an old manor. The building was it was built in 1896. It's a brick building with walls like 3 feet thick, and natural stone foundation. Is like a really massive house, and most of the house now is our guitar workshop. I think it's the size, if you count like both floors, the second and first and second floor, we have about 6,500 square feet space here, and most of that is the guitar workshop, and we have a little apartment. And okay, so when we bought the building, we moved our business in. This is like we go 12, 13 years back, and already back then we kind of fantasized of the possibility of living in this building as well. But at the time, that was a bit too much. We had a little baby, all the working and renovating the workshop space. So we ended up buying a house nearby that needed zero renovation, like a modern house, for a little while. And we ended up having that for 8 years. And then a few years ago, we took the leap, so to speak, and we started building an apartment for ourselves here in this building, and we put our house for sale. And the house sold so fast that we kind of panicked, because technically we did have a little old apartment area in this building, but that had stood abandoned for decades. You know, there was no running water, there was no sewerage built, no kitchen, no shower, no toilet, nothing. We had just started the renovation, and obviously there was no sauna either. So we move in here and we live in the midst of this renovation, and we're thinking that we have to have some sort of like an escape from this mess. And so we kind of figured that, yeah, let's get a sauna to the garden, something that we can just buy, and it can be, you know, dropped in there with a crane. They just lift it and put it. We put the little foundation there and make the sewerage working, and and they're going to put it there, and we're going to have a sauna in a few weeks. So yeah, and so I was looking at different options of what could we get, and I've been sauna bathing in barrel saunas, and that made me super suspicious about anything that even remotely reminds of a barrel sauna. And but I got pretty good recommendations from a couple of friends that know sauna, and so I kind of thought that, well, maybe. And this is actually the sauna that we got. We ordered it, we bought it from Estonia, so it's not even a Finnish sauna, so we bought it from Estonia, right? And I can be quite picky about my sauna. And I can say this sauna, it's not perfect. I've already done a few improvements, and I'm planning to do a couple of more tweaks to it. So I've improved the ventilation of the hot room, and I built a shelf for the water buckets so they don't lay on the floor. But it's like a wooden, it's like a barrel thing. And there's no water isolation, there's no heat isolation in the winter. So it's just the wooden construction, period. And so you get water in, you want it to be, you want the rooms to dry, because otherwise you're going to end up having trouble. So I've kind of done things so that it's well ventilated. There's no water buckets laying on the wooden floor. There's sewerage going from the hot room and from the washroom out, so we can always rinse the benches of the hot room after sauna and so on. So yeah, and I'd still like to raise the upper bench a little bit higher than it is right now. Maybe not much, but maybe let's say 10 centimeters. The lower bench maybe 20 centimeters. I think so. The Estonians have built pretty okay sauna, but not quite perfect. So we're gonna try to improve it a bit more. But I mean, it's I already mentioned it doesn't have heat isolation, and I would guess that it's more a type of like summer cottage sauna, that it's meant to be in summer use. But we use it definitely around the year, every single Saturday if we're just home. And I'd say, considering the rather compact size of the hot room, this sauna is actually, in my opinion, at its best in the wintertime, or not in the kind of I mean, summer is short in Finland, but let's say anywhere outside the warm season in Finland, this sauna is at its best, because it is still tight enough in construction and small enough, so it kind of heats up in decent time in the winter, and it holds the heat pretty good. And but I mean, in the summer, you really need to stay on top of, not to overheat it, because it's a small hot room. So I have a few things that I do. For example, in the winter, I would typically use birch as firewood all the way through, heating the sauna up and maintaining the fire during bathing. But in the summer, I'd more likely use birch. If I use birch, I would only heat up the sauna, but when maintaining the fire during bathing, I'd use alder or maybe aspen or whatever that doesn't get so hot, and so I can kind of stay on top of it, that the room temperature, when not throwing water on the stone, isn't too high, not make it like uncomfortably dry, and that you can kind of, yeah.
What temperature are we talking about? You can say it in Celsius if you.
Well, in Celsius, I would say that when you in this hot room, when we go to the room before we have thrown any water on the stones, it's pretty good if it's like, let's say 70 to 75.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not hotter than that. If we go over 80 Celsius, whatever that is, you can do the calculations or whatever it is. If in this sauna it's 80 or more, it's going to be difficult when you start throwing water on the stones. It's kind of more comfortable if we have it, let's say 70, 72, 75, whatever, something like that. It's going to be nice, because we have in the stove, you saw it a little bit of it in the video. The stove has quite a lot of stone. I mean, it's like it's the type of those modern stoves that not only the stones are not only on top of it, they're kind of all the way around the fire pit. So it's there's quite a bit of stone.
Tower.
So rock towers, that type of thing, and so
what brand is it?
I can't remember what the brand, because it's an Estonian brand that I've never heard about, but it's I can't remember it. Sorry.
I tried to see that in the video too. I couldn't make it out, Risto, but
I can find you the brand.
It's neat.
And do you know how many rocks it has, and what do you think of that rock tower style of heater? How has it been?
I've liked it. I think it's nice because even though in this, I mean, because it's again a pretty small room, not too small in the way that, you know, the benches, I don't know if it comes how it comes across in that video, but you don't need to sit so close to the stove that the radiating heat would be on your shins, like that. That's something I really don't like. So but it has those kind of like heat shields around it, most of it, that are maybe because there's a cage full of rocks, and then maybe 3 inches gap, and then there's the kind of like the heat shield, bent thick metal plate going around. But what you can do with the rock tower type of thing, that you get different type of steam a bit, or different amount of heat, if you throw it to the front of it or to the top of it, kind of like in that way. So I think it's pretty good. But I don't have really experience of many that kind of what I know is that in some sauna, I was kind of positively surprised in a sauna where when I kind of entered the sauna, I was thinking that, okay, the benches are way too low, and now my feet are going to be cold, because if I don't raise them on the upper bench as well, or I don't have any kind of like a railing to put my feet on higher up, so it's not going to work. But in this sauna, they had the rock tower thing, and it felt like actually it also kind of helped a bit that you didn't have that issue with the lower part of the sauna being so cold when you had rocks all the way from the floor up. In that sauna, I'm not sure if it was only that, because it can be also other factors contributing to that. You know, how the ventilation, what kind of draft is there, and so on. But,
it looks like you're getting a good mix of, you know, like a radiation heat, you know, just heat coming directly from that stove and rocks. They might be heating, you know, the lower extremities maybe a little bit softer than maybe just blasting if there were no rocks.
Yeah, and in this sauna that we have now, it's like in a barrel sauna, it's typically very uncomfortable to sit, because you're sitting on those like curved, and you're kind of sitting in a funny way. But in this sauna, you can actually, where you sit, especially if we are our family, let's say, you know, me and my wife and our son, the three of us in sauna, we could all basically lift our legs on the bench and rest our backs to a straight wall behind us. So, and we'd be all of us would be then quite high in the room, our legs included, and not too close to the stove that is in the corner. So I think it's
by you
good.
having that flat wall, I think that's what really differentiates that from a traditional, you know, log barrel or you know, whiskey barrel style sauna, where you've got a nice flat wall there, so you're not out crunched over or anything like that. So that's a big differentiator.
Yeah, but it's also like I would say, you know, having guests or you know, more people going in sauna together, or as a social, you know, maybe traditionally in Finland, a lot of the times, not always anymore, but traditionally you would be naked with your family. But when we go to sauna, sometimes we have guests from different countries. We could have like maybe customers or a dealer comes from Japan or from Germany or whatever visits, and some people are curious to going to sauna, and then we would have swimming trunks, or when going together in a that kind of group. But what I find in this sauna, like a bit of a limitation, the size and the fact that we don't have a bigger terrace, and so especially let's say in the cold season, it is a bit, it can be crowded easily. So you kind of like your intimacy space around you is like your private. You might feel awkward if not kind of used to that social context or sauna as a part of a social context in a way, which is kind of weird. I mean, you don't even need to go further than to our beloved neighbor country, Sweden, where it would be very weird for most Swedish people to say that, you have guests coming in and you're okay, so let's get naked and go to sauna together. Let's it's kind of like, you would propose to someone that okay, welcome, let's have a toast and then, get naked and take a shower. Because it's like, what are you talking about? Because there just isn't that culture of, well, you guys know what sauna can be. It can be like it can be a really relaxed space for friends to talk about stuff, or to family to unload or yeah, kind of like discuss about the past week, what happened, what this and that, and yeah.
Well, if the upper benches of something, it's definitely about the elaborating the sauna bathing experience and what the ingredients are, and kind of what we are talking about here, and we'll come back to that a little later. But we have this feeling, or we pretty much know that a lot of North Americans are missing out. Like many things that we discuss are not that well understood for people in North America. By the way, just to say this, we were talking about those temperatures. So 75 degrees Celsius is 167 degrees Fahrenheit. Just to give, because that's kind of, in the US, there's this quote that depicts that you can't go over 194 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 90 degrees Celsius. But anyway, so that's but there are many different levels, or many different things.
And I have to say that that's also it kind of depends a lot on the size of the room that you have. I mean, if you have a big sauna, the hot room, and you have a lot of space in it, where when you're throwing the steam on the rocks, and you have a lot of space where that steam is going to expand and fill the room, that in that kind of sauna, it would be more comfortable to keep the kind of the basic temperature of the room a bit higher. But if you have a small sauna and you heat it up to 90 degrees Celsius, whatever that was in Fahrenheit, 194, I would say that very few people would find that comfortable. The way I experience and whoever people I've ever gone to sauna with, you would just feel that, oh, this is too hot, it's too dry, it's uncomfortable. You just go in it, and when you have it there, 194 Fahrenheit, and then you throw that scoop of water on the rocks, and it's gonna just, you can be there like 3-4 minutes, and you need to get out.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a small room, but if it's a big room, it could be totally totally fine and wonderful. Also, assuming that you have decent ventilation in the room, that you have oxygen to breathe in the room.
Yeah, and with your wood stove, I was going to ask, how are you ventilating that wood stove? Is it is there an actual air intake from the outside, or maybe from
we have
the washroom?
we have a big ventilation hole at the lower edge of the wall, of the back wall, of this kind of the straight wall that there is. So there's a big hole there, and another one up in the wall, and both of those can be adjusted. So the upper one can be adjusted with a kind of like a you can screw it in like so.
Oh, sure.
And the lower one I made myself bigger. That's one of my kind of improvements that I made, that there's like a kind of like a wooden lid that you can adjust it. In the winter you would put it a bit less. In the summer you would open it all the way, because the temperature difference outside inside is smaller, and usually it's not a problem, especially in the warm season, that you would get like somehow too much air into the room when it comes to the mostly from the lower edge, or I would say lower edge of the room in.
Do you lose much heat and steam out of your upper vent?
I don't know. I would say that if I would screw it all the way in, I would easily start, or faster start feeling nausea, or just feeling not great in the sauna, and we would just keep it open, and the little draft that comes in from there, because I mean, a lot of the times the ventilation can only be problematic like that. You would have too much ventilation if you have undersized stove in the room. I would say that when oftentimes, or most of the times, I would say in Finnish saunas, you would almost like have like over too much power, or let's say excess power in the stove capacity compared to the room. So I mean, maybe if you start measuring it scientifically with measuring equipment, you could say probably we're losing steam, probably we're losing something, but is it significant? Is it something that I would worry about? No. I just very much go by the ear. I fly by the, just what feels great. You go for that and you experiment with that.
Well,
and a lot
and
of times, I mean, I'm interrupting, but I mean, a lot of the times, if you think of the traditional, really old style Finnish saunas, they used to be like these built of logs, like timber saunas with, and often you would have gaps between the timber, and the floor would have gaps, and you would have tons of air coming in. And those are some of the best saunas I've ever been in. That you have a lot of air coming in, but when you have a lot of capacity in that pile of rocks in the stove that you have there, whether it's a smoke sauna or more modern sauna, it's not going to be a problem, because you're just going to compensate it with, because it's, being in sauna where you can throw a lot of water on the rocks without making it unbearably hot. It's very, very nice.
Yeah. And, measuring by yourself, using yourself as a measure and paying attention to what it's like, I would encourage all of our listeners to practice sauna that way. I'll tell some people,
exactly,
don't even use a thermometer, feel your benches, feel your walls, listen to the sound of the water on the rocks, pay attention to like how you're feeling, as far as like you talked about feeling like you're not getting enough oxygen. It's okay to use measures as well, but your best measure is like your body.
Exactly. And I would say I've heard there's a and I know that in Finland in a lot of saunas in summer cottages that people rent out for tourists, they have like sauna bathing instructions, and you know, in the instructions you might have these, you know, these numbers. You might have the temperature, you might have, you know, how many minutes you're supposed to be. And then people start taking it literally, like that. They start thinking that, oh, I need a timer, which is like the stupidest thing I could ever think, to have a timer in sauna, which is like the opposite of what you're supposed to do. Like you're supposed to forget time completely, and it let that like experience like immerse you and take over you, and all of a sudden you're in this time warp where you know, you go into the sauna and then you come out of the sauna and you think that, what the hell, 4 hours? Where did that 4 hours go? You know, that's the way sauna is supposed to be. Okay, you know how it is. It's the Eero has been talking about the kind of the routine, the cycle of, you know, of course it's not being 4 hours in the hot room. It's going to be the cycle, the repetition of the routine of hot and cold, and obviously hydrating and yourself, and so you don't dry up. So yeah, I would say that for me, you know, having a thermometer on the wall, it's not there so that I could it's not there because I want to monitor the thermometer while sauna bathing. It's more there because I'm kind of, I know, you know, I don't really care about the number, what it says, because I know already by now, being 51 years old and having bathed in I don't know, 1,000 different saunas, I know that in one sauna the thermometer can say 194 Fahrenheit or whatever is in Celsius, and it feels great. And in another sauna you go, it says the same number and it's it's unbearably hot, and you can't go into that sauna. So you can't really stare at that number because it depends on the height of the room, it depends on so many factors. And so I would have the thermometer there for the sole reason of, okay, now I have a, you know, let's say the first time we got the sauna 3 years ago, something like that. So the first time I heat up the sauna, the first time I go there, I have no idea how this sauna is going to be, in what temperature. And so that's the thermometer is great for, because the first time you go there, you realize that, okay, maybe this doesn't feel so great. And then I look on the wall and that says 85 degrees. Okay, this is too much for this sauna. Mm-hmm. But I first listen to my body and then I adjust the kind of, so that I would know next time when I heat it up that I won't make it too hot, so that it feels nice. So I, you know, the thermometer and whatever means of measuring things is more for kind of just calibrating that space to behave the way I want it to behave, you know, so that it's comfortable.
Perfect.
This discussion is excellent, but we haven't even scratched the surface yet, and we've been talking almost 50 minutes already. So let me just
you
scroll
have to
back.
make it 2 episodes.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, or 3. Yeah, but let me scroll back a little. Let me scroll back a little, because that is, you know, we always, you know, as Juha said, we used to work together. In the music business, we used to travel to Los Angeles once a year for a trade show. By the way, I have to tell this, it's so funny because Juha follows this tradition that his guitar brand is his last name. And I went to do something at the offices at the Anaheim, you know, Trade Center, or whatever they call that place. And he goes like, well, can you spell that very difficult Finnish last name? I start, are you okay? Yes, I'm fine. No, I'm trying to spell it because his name spells Ruokangas.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it has happened so many times. Yeah.
But anyway, my point is that, so we had you know, we check up, you know, like every 6 months that we are both still alive, and we talk about the old times and stuff. And then we start talking about these podcasts, and like Risto says, everybody and his brother has a podcast nowadays. So
yeah, absolutely.
Juha has his own. Our dear friend JJ French with the Twisted Sister has his own, and everybody else has their own.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the point where I've been, when you volunteered, Juha, for this show, and I'm obviously we're all grateful for you doing that. But the very interesting thing is, and there's a similarity to what we do here, is that so you have these people coming to your premises from all over the world.
Yeah.
And then you, as a Finnish person, goes like, okay, so again, let's have a beer and get naked and get into the hot room. So what do you see with these newbies? What are like the traditional things that you are yourself like surprised about? Maybe the lack of understanding. I don't know. How does it go normally?
Well, I could say that one example, a guy from Australia came by, and and we started talking about the topic of sauna, and the guy was seemingly startled, like, whoa, okay, so where is this going? And I was before I kind of got into explaining about the concept of Finnish sauna any further, the guy goes like, in Australia, sauna is seen like stereotypically a Swedish erotic massage parlor. That's sauna. I mean, if you have a sign somewhere in Sydney saying sauna, that's what it is. It's something quite different from what Finnish sauna is about. So that was the kind of, that's how polarized our.
Are you going to Sydney now? I'm sorry.
So what I'm saying is that was the starting point, how polarized our perceptions were at that point. And yeah, so I think that this is a very interesting perspective to look at things, because it's you've asked it in your podcast so many times. So how can we communicate? How can we educate people? How can we make people understand better what sauna is? Well, one thing is, of course, the problem that sauna is not something. It doesn't fit into this box or that box or that, because it's a whole spectrum of tradition, different kinds of tradition mixing in different countries, and it's not a Finnish invention. Wherever it comes from, way back, it's difficult to say, but it is very challenging to tell another person. I don't think there's a really good way of telling other than showing, and other than the actual experience. It's kind of like you take any experience. How does it feel to jump from an airplane with a parachute? How do you explain that if you don't experience? How does a person? How can a person ever understand how it feels like? So I think, the closest you could maybe get, the way I'm kind of brainstorming about it, like, if you haven't been in sauna, if you maybe have one bad experience in your life of going into sauna, and then you've made up your mind, oh, it's not something that's not for me, I don't like it, and it's because you just had a terrible experience of a bad sauna in one way or the other. So how can you communicate how wonderful and even life-changing it can be in the other extreme, when it's really great?
Yeah.
Even in Finland, in Finnish language. Sorry?
You froze for a second. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So I don't know if it even exists in Finnish language or does it or does not. But but I'm thinking like a book or something that is sauna stories from a different people from their lives, like something that is like actually diving into those stories like for real. So there's a book. What is that book?
This one's from Canada. It's called
Okay.
Sweating with the Finns, and
All right.
it's what you're talking about, people's
Okay.
stories.
Is that a good book?
It's a good book. It's hard to find though.
Yeah. Okay. So there you go. I mean, it's a niche. Sauna is still such a niche. It's and the way it's kind of the way I've understood from your podcasts, like educating myself, how is sauna in North America? I've never been in sauna in North America anywhere ever in my life. So I've learned from your podcasts that it appears to be that sauna has a very different role. I've listened to the ones where you talked about how kind of sauna came to North America and how it has become part of like the health, the gyms, and the kind of like a quick fix for your health issues and this and that, and it's marketed as the next pill to fix you. So I get it. It's quite a challenging situation in that regard, but it's not. I mean, in Finland also, it's like I said in the beginning that a lot of people take sauna for granted. They just don't think much of it. A lot of younger generation doesn't go to sauna at all. It's changing in Finland as well. I mean, I would say it's not. The younger generation doesn't see it as often anymore, something that can have that social aspect. So I think it's becoming partly for some people of that full spectrum. Some are super enthusiastic about it, and others couldn't care less. And it's a spectrum. There's not right or wrong or not any single truth to it. But yeah, it's I don't know. I don't know where it should go next. But what you guys are doing or any kind of spreading the news and spreading the education, the knowledge about it, it's I would say it, of course, important. And because it is something like, okay, when if taking, sometimes you've asked like why and why sauna feels important, and you've had episodes about the health, touching the kind of the what could be the health, the like genuine health benefits that you could have from sauna. And I don't know how well you know the history. Maybe you know it better than I know it. But if in Finland, if we go back in time a few centuries, like talking about the health, very literal health benefits. Well, we go back to the medieval times, Finland being a part of the Swedish kingdom at the time, and the social structure or the social classes in Finland where, it was a somewhat clear cut between a Swedish speaking upper class and the rest of the population, being, the lower class being more the natives, the Finnish people. And a really interesting story from the medieval times was, the time of the plague. When plague hit Finland, sauna was seen as something that it's for those natives, for those Finns. It's something to do with their pagan. I mean, Sweden came to Finland with crosses. Crusades was the excuse of coming over and taking over, and we had our pagan beliefs, and sauna was kind of seen at the time as as part of that. It was something to do with that native religions and the paganism and things. And in other words, the upper class did not generally go to sauna because it was seen as something that we're too fine for that filthy tradition from Finns, right? And so the plague hits Finland, and lo and behold, the upper class dies and the lower class doesn't. No, not black and white, but more so, more people in the upper class die. And if we think of the medieval times, how did the upper class keep themselves clean? What was their hygiene about? They didn't typically go to shower. They just put more deodorants and more smells and more with their wigs and their all that stuff, just keep the appearances of cleanliness. Whereas the Finnish people go to sauna. And they
they actually got clean.
They actually got clean, and they actually didn't die so much of the plague.
100%.
So there you go.
Eero
like
was
one health benefit that you can have.
Yeah, you can stay alive. Yeah.
We were talking about that just the other day about using it as a cleanly space out on the battlefield. You see the videos recently from out of Ukraine, the saunas there being probably the cleanest spot in 100 miles, but that dates all the way back to the world wars, where they were using them for detox, not detoxing, but literally cleaning themselves off of any type of chemical or any type of lice or any infestation disease that was running around and going through the companies. They could kind of run them through at least a sauna and get, and even if half the guys got clean, it was a win.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So we gotta soon. We have to start wrapping up soon. But let's just go back to the the quote unquote foreigners coming to see you and having negotiations with you, maybe dealers or end customers. So are you like facing the same thing that we face very often here in North America, that people that kind of may not even going deep into the structure of the sauna, but the misunderstanding that sauna is a one and done thing? Do you have, is that something that happens to you also?
Yeah. Oftentimes there would be let's say one of the more recent ones would be a professional guitarist from Germany who came over and told me that he's familiar with sauna, and he goes to sauna all the time in his home city, Hamburg, in Germany, and so on. And so great. So we think we have a couple of beers in the evening, and we warm up the sauna. We go to sauna, and I think I mean, not thinking more of it other than doing what I always do to people who haven't been in Finnish sauna the way we go to sauna. I tend to just walk people through the experience the way we do it, and I explain it while doing it and what's happening and then asking that, is this how you have it where you've been before? And often then that's the kind of the latest when it comes out that usually it isn't the case. Usually the case is the one round and you're off. It's kind of more the gym, some sweating off or warming up your muscles or whatever other kind of purposes, but the actual the repetition, the kind of that brings the sauna to that. Sorry, I'm going to close the window because it's very. I think it's my son mowing the lawn there. So yeah. So the having the kind of the repetition of the cycle of hot, cold, hydrating, chilling, cold, plunge if you have a possibility to do that, and so on. It's that kind of brings you to that mindset that I would say that is the if we think of the sauna often, I would say that it's something that it's not only for cleansing your body, it's for cleansing your body, your mind, your soul, there's a meditative element to it that is there's kind of inbuilt and inescapable if you just go through those rounds. It's kind of takes you through that. One interesting thing about this, cleaning body or cleansing the body, mind, and soul is the vocabulary that we have in Finland. The word sauna, the word löyly, meaning the water that you throw on the stones, the word kiuas, meaning the stove. I mean, kiuas in Finnish, it's a word that doesn't mean stove. It means that specific. It means the sauna stove, but it doesn't mean a stove in general. Kiuas is the word for that. There's like a specific dedicated vocabulary in Finland for these elements, and just concentrating on one of those terms, löyly, the water, the steam. Do you know, Eero, the origin of the word, where it comes from?
You have to remind me. I've been
okay, because it is. This is actually something because somebody asked me and I had no clue, and I started kind of digging up that what is it about, and it's quite interesting because it does come from the old times, pre-Christian, whatever, pagan if you like, but the native beliefs and religious beliefs of the kind of spiritual side of a human being, like in the traditional Finnish beliefs, there's, you could almost say, like two kinds of a soul in a person. So the soul that we talk about in Finnish, that's sielu. That means the kind of the part of you that you could say in other religions also is the part that goes on living, that doesn't die when you die. But then in Finnish language, there's another type of a soul, and the original word for that is löyly. And it is the bodily spirit. It's that life force that keeps you going, that keeps your heart beating, that keeps your cells operating. That's löyly originally in Finnish. So it's the bodily spirit, and one of the elements, I mean, thinking that, okay, löyly in sauna, the steam, that it would be that kind of an element that kind of like revitalizes your bodily spirit. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting as you dig into that picture to think, like, because there's so many saunas here that they say no steam, and if you think about that, say the sauna isn't alive without steam,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
its life is gone, and then also, we should say about North America, there really are kind of maybe like three different types of saunas. There's the ones we've talked about, which are the gym, the hotel ones, which often are without that life. They don't have the multifaceted, there's nothing profound. You wouldn't go use it and come back and go, oh, I got to get one of these,
Yeah.
But there's also, the Finnish American areas in northern Minnesota and northern Michigan, and it's very much alive there.
Yeah, you talked about these. Yeah,
the sauna culture is part of the DNA.
Yeah.
It's, and then there's also the trend, which is happening right now, which for me is a bit of a question mark, is it going to become part of the DNA, woven into the culture of people's experience in their
And I would want to add one more thing, because this is an interesting, like if we go way back before Finland ever existed, or I don't know, I mean, was there any human beings on this piece of land yet? But really, like going way back, and I don't know if this is a coincidence or not, and I don't know if there's any research done about it or not, but the common factors between the Finnish type of sauna and the North American, the Native American sweat lodge that they had, because this is interesting. I mean, when you there was a time in my life when I was reading a lot about the Native Americans, different kind of tribes, the Hopi, the Cree, the different. There's so much different tribes, and I was reading about those things, and the kind of the common ancestry through between the Alaskan and the Russian, the Bering Strait, and the Mongolian tribes in Siberia, and the North American, some of the tribes in Alaska, and coming down to Canada and so on and so forth. They share partly the same DNA, and we, the Finns, we partly, again, the Siberian tribes are our ancestors. And the Native Americans, I mean, they have the sweat lodge, and they had deeply spiritual reasons for having the sweat lodge. And I would be so interested in, like, learning something about even the vocabulary, and I've tried to find some, words. How did they call sauna? What was there, in different native languages? What was the sweat lodge called, and what was the steam that they threw water on the rocks? What did they call it, and so on? That could you find any kind of something common ground from way back? But I don't know.
That's very interesting. Now I know what I'm asking AI for the rest of the afternoon.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So can you get löyly without the löyly? It's just like, where's the spirit?
No.
So we are constantly thinking, as you, Juha, probably even know, you've been so kindly watching or listening to our podcast, but so, what separates what we are talking about with the general understanding of a sauna? Because again, you can, this is not the whole truth, obviously, but you can really, like, after this kind of discussion, I also have to think about this. So you have the spirited sauna, and you have the less spirited sauna, and the sauna without the löyly, in a way, as you just told us, in a way, that means that it's a sauna with no spirit. It can be a nice hot box still, there's nothing wrong with that per se, but like, how do you, again, it's like, I'm not going to jump from an airplane anytime soon, but I'm going to be doing a lot of sauna.
Yeah.
But again, it's like, do we have to throw everybody out of the plane with the parachute, or how do we approach? But anyway, so gentlemen, final round of questions now. We are running way over time, but this has been already so far an excellent discussion.
I knew it's going to go over time. I'm too talkative, and I apologize for that.
Yeah, we're gonna bring. I think we are gonna bring you on for an episode 2 at some point, and maybe we'll actually talk about guitars. But no, this has been a great conversation. I do appreciate you coming with us. My final question, or just kind of final thought, where do you see your sauna going from here? In a new house, wherever you land, if what's the next step for your home sauna?
Well, the current sauna, we're kind of like, when we bought it, I thought of it as a temporary solution until we built our apartment to this building, and maybe then we'll look into something else. So, but we've been kind of, I would say, surprisingly happy with the sauna, so that now we're thinking that maybe the next steps would be like put a bigger terrace and some roof over it, and some cold splash, or whatever we could do, like something that to kind of tweak that a bit. But I have to say that in the long term, one of my dreams that I've never had is that I would put a smoke sauna into our garden at some point. Yeah, that's something that I would like to put there. Just because it's just that what I think what keeps me from doing it is that to have a smoke sauna, we don't have a lake right next to our house, so it's kind of, that's the thing that I maybe it will be the longer term dream come true, would be a smoke sauna somewhere by a lake. But that's
I know that's one
maybe
of mine.
something that so that's maybe something.
Wonderful. No, thank you so much.
Any other questions? Final questions?
It's, don't look at me. It's
Risto's got one percolating. I can see it.
Yes.
I don't right now. I took tons of notes, so
well, I could wrap up.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
You know that United Nations has chosen Finland several times to be the happiest country in the world. I think it's been in the news quite widely in the United States as well. And so I think, first of all, like, for Finnish people hearing that we've been chosen the happiest country in the world, it's a kind of like an awkward thought, or a kind of paradoxical thought, in a way, because Finnish people per se wouldn't necessarily see themselves often as the happiest in the world. I would say, but maybe it's more like being more content with what you have, rather than endlessly craving for more and more. Maybe that's something more, that we're kind of like, we have a country where it's a pretty safe country to live in, and even if you drop from the business wheels, and if you drop, you're going to be taken care of to an extent, and you get a doctor's appointment or whatnot, and all those things, what kind of contributes to that being more content, or more easily content with what you have, rather than endlessly craving for more. But I would say, honestly, my theory is also is that the essential existence of the sauna culture plays also some kind of role here, because with its really, like, if you think of it, with its long-term overarching effect of slowing the hectic pace of life in our modern era down a bit. And when you have that, as part of our lives, as I said, every Saturday we go to sauna. Every Saturday, if we're home, we take those typically 3 to 4 hours in my family to really slow down and put away the gadgets, put away the screens, put away the clock, put away the timer, and take that time warp.
I like that. I'm going to use that. And no clocks in the sauna. And I love that, because I think everybody needs a chance to do that. Doesn't matter if you're in Europe or North America or wherever. Everybody needs to be able to take a slow down and go at their own pace again. So I love that. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
So thank you so much. We just, again, like I said before, we just started scratching the surface, but we'll get back to you. And since you've been so nice, Juha. I am Eero, Kilpi, as always, with the North American Sun Study, and I have my dear brothers Christopher and Sam here with me. Juha Ruokangas, thank you so much. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. Keep up the great work.
Thank you so much.